because I tried to memorize my speech 30 times, but I don't know how successful I will be. So thank you all very much, so much for being here tonight. I'm going to forget to ask you my phone. Me and Elizabeth only ever joked about her running for office. I remember when I met her 2 years ago, one of the first things she said to me when I had my first rant with her, that she would run for governor, and I told her she was crazy. But I always secretly hoped for the day that she would run for office. I met Elizabeth 2 years ago when I first moved to St. Louis to attend the Brown School for my master's degree in social work. And I can't remember if Elizabeth was my professor first or my advisor first, but I do remember setting up a Zoom call with her to talk about my frustrations with the world at that point, and my frustrations with the academy, and I felt what their complacency was and some of the issues that we were dealing with, how social work wasn't really showing up how it should have. And Elizabeth reassured me, she listened to me, and she gave me some advice. And in typical Elizabeth fashion, she offered her porch as a safe space for me to come and sip tea or coffee or whatever, just to rant anytime I would like. That is the Elizabeth I know, I've met, I've always known, and I know the advocate she could be in Jefferson City for all of us. Offering safe spaces, being particular in the ways that she advocates and how she teaches her students to advocate, has always been Elizabeth that I've known. And the most amazing advantage she has, the most amazing advantage she has is being a former bartender. Her social worker, which makes her the best relationship builder, which can navigate a lot of difficult personalities and productively work across the aisle. Now, speaking of Jefferson City, Representative Peter Merideth has set the bar extremely high for whoever comes after him. He has been a powerhouse in the face of extremism in Jefferson City and has never shied away from a hard fight. And I hate to see him go. He was my representative at one point in time until he was redistricted out. And I wouldn't have anyone else do the job other than Elizabeth. So without belaboring my remarks, I would like to turn over to Representative Merideth for a few words to introduce Elizabeth.
Thank you.
I'll hold it. Yeah. Is that helping? Hi. Good to see everyone here. It's a nice crowd for one of these. I gotta tell you, I used to go to a lot of fundraisers. It's part of the job. You go help people run in different districts. I spent the last 6 years, helping run the House Democratic Campaign Committee, recruiting candidates, going to events, helping train them, help get Democrats elected across the state. And I gotta say, oftentimes when we go to fundraisers, it'd be the same 12 people at most of them. And it was still important because it was a way to let everyone know you're running. People didn't necessarily want to spend their night doing something like this, but they'd still give, they'd learn about you, they'd do all those things. It was valuable. I love that I walked in here and I see a full room. And I know some of you, but I see a lot of unfamiliar faces, and none of you are the regulars that I see at everything, which means you're actually here for Elizabeth. I will say, knowing Elizabeth as well as I do, I know why. I appreciate the compliment that I set a high bar for this job. I cannot think of anybody I am more confident will take that bar and raise it higher than Elizabeth. I was worried being turned out. I'm really sad to leave this job, I have to say. It's a terrible, terrible job. Really, support her and also give her condolences if she goes and does this, because it is a terrible job. It is really hard and awful in a lot of ways, but it's also deeply fulfilling for those who want to be a part of the fight, and those who are effective at advocacy, at communication, at speaking truth to power and standing up for the most vulnerable. Well, I have had the privilege to work with Elizabeth in that capacity for the last, really since I came in, I think. She was there from the beginning, and she knew more than I did already. She'd been there long, she'd been around this world longer than me, aware of the fight that we're up against. And honestly, I learned so much from her. I learned the power of empathy in that place. And empathy is complicated because it even means empathy for the kind of hateful people. Because what I saw her do in that first year there, when she was lobbying for promo at the time, was go into the offices of some of the people with the most bigoted and hateful views and sit and start off just listening to them. And she built a relationship with them and a trust with them that only someone like Elizabeth, and honestly social workers, my favorite representatives that I've worked with in my time there have been largely social workers. They're some of the most effective people I work with, and it's partly because of that empathy, that listening, that yes and, I hear you, but kind of things where they do engage deeply in the conversations and listen, and that is how you change minds. That is how we create change. But she also spoke powerfully when she testified in committee against hate. And man, learning from her and the people she organized and supported in the process, I learned more about issues than I ever dreamed and how to be better at doing our job as legislators asking questions. So I could not be more excited. I trust Elizabeth with my life. And I don't say that lightly. In politics, sometimes it's hard to trust people after 7 years. I've gotten very cynical. Came in eyes wide open. I trust her completely, and I suspect every one of you does too, and that's why we're here. Switching gears. Campaigns are hard. The job is hard, but campaigns are hard too. And they do take a lot of money, and they take a lot of door knocking, and they take a lot of other kind of volunteering, even if that's sometimes being someone that you can lean on their shoulder and cry. She's been that for so many of us, but she's gonna need it too. Please be there, not just today, writing a check today, being here to cheer her on, fantastic. Bring 5 more people to the next thing she does. Take envelopes from here and take them to your friends and say, I know you're frustrated with our political world. I know somebody I believe in. I know somebody that I know and trust and I know is doing them for the right reasons. Help her get there. Because it costs money. Getting your name out there costs money and it costs a lot of time knocking doors. So if you can do either of those 2 things at all, please do. If that means, maybe today you can't write as big a check as you want to write, sign up for a recurring donation. Keep it going so you don't have to remember and she doesn't have to remind you. It goes a long way. I wanted to make sure to make that ask because I hate making someone like her ask you for money the first time she's talking to you. But please, it really does matter. With that, I've had my time to talk and you all have probably heard me from time to time. I want to hear what Elizabeth has to say, and I know you all do too. But I couldn't be prouder to introduce her. Couldn't be more excited about passing the torch to her, a torch she has carried with me this whole time. So thank you for stepping up to run. Thank you for being an amazing human being. And thank you all for helping support her in this next phase.
Thank you, Peter. Wow. When I first walked into your office back in the winter of 2017, and I sewed a button on your coat, never did I ever imagine that we'd end up here with you introducing me to serve in your termed out seat. It is a great honor to be your friend and to have your endorsement as I campaign to be the next state representative for Missouri's 80th House District. Thank you, Janeka, for the welcome and for being my hype human. From being in my social policy analysis and evaluation class last fall to now supporting this campaign, I'm not sure how I got so lucky to have your encouragement and enthusiasm. Let's just say that grateful doesn't go far enough. Thank you to Brittany, Maria, and all the Tower Grove Park event staff and grounds crew. This park and this space are the perfect venue to channel the light. Thank you to the team. Woo! Adam, Jet, Tuna, Mom, Marge, ABC, Claire, Decker, BFF, Jen. I am so incredibly grateful to all of you, Amy G, how you're showing up and contributing to this team and this event. Like Peter said, campaigns don't just happen. I did not have a clue how much went into campaigns. They take a lot of work from many dedicated humans. This village is mighty, and I am humbled by your generosity and talents. And a thank you, all of you. Looking out here, I see so many people from so many different parts of my life. Back in Novak's days, Novak family. Got my Brown School family here, students, colleagues, family, you know, like the family I was born into, and then the family that I have acquired along the way. People who have cared for my animals, who've tended to my heart, whose homes I lived in. Thank you for showing up here tonight. To my parents, speaking of homes I lived in. For financially investing in our campaign and for believing in what we are doing, thank you. I stand before you on sacred and hallowed ground. This is the land of the Osage, Missouri, and Illini people. I stand before you as an out queer and lesbian woman running for public office. And I stand here because of those who came before me. Out members of the Missouri legislature from both sides of the aisle. Zachary Wyatt, Mike Colonna, hey Mary. Ashley Bland Manlove, J-Mo, Greg Razor, Rasheen Aldridge, and the late Tom Hannigan. I honor them and I acknowledge all those who served but couldn't be out. Tonight is the last night of the Festival of Lights, known as Hanukkah, celebrating the miracle of the light that persisted in the face of the most extreme darkness. In this time of global darkness, of war, of pain, of deep human suffering, we too need to remember that we are the light. Each of us is gathered here because we believe that the light will triumph over the darkness. Already here in Missouri, religious extremists in Jefferson City are filing bills that contribute to our collective pain and trauma. They intend to further restrict our abilities to live our best, truest lives here. How many times have you asked yourself, do I need to move? At what point do I leave? And you're not alone in this thinking. Hey, Jamie. You're not alone in this thinking because we've watched many of our friends leave the state to protect their families and their bodies. And this is why I'm running for office. This is why I want to be the next state representative for District 80, because every Missourian deserves to stay here, in their home state. They shouldn't have to leave because their government forces them out. My dad is one of 11 children, many of them here. Yep, that's right. I come from one of those big old St. Louis Catholic families, and 2 of my dad's brothers were gay. As young gay men, they didn't see a future for themselves here in this state. And they left in their early 20s, and they headed for the coast. They left. I got to grow up here. And now I look to my siblings' children over there. I look to all the other kids in the room. And I know that we have no choice but to get involved and to stay involved for them. Our elders who paved the way, they didn't stop. They kept fighting for the rights that got us here. We have to keep going to keep the ground that we've won and to gain more ground. This district is used to having a strong, vocal leader to champion their issues in the State House. In 2016, when I started working for PROMO, Missouri's LGBTQ+ advocacy and public policy organization, as the lobbyist for queer and trans equality, I had no idea what level of advocacy was going to be needed. We worked together, building a coalition. Yeah, that's right, Sarah, Jamie, we sure did. We built a coalition of elected officials and community partners. And at that time, it's when I met Representative Merideth. And in the 2016 class of electeds, they were leading the defensive strategies as we started to see the shift in state leadership and priorities. people like Representative Crystal Quaid, Bruce Franks Jr., Greg Razor, and the late Honorable Cora Faith Walker. These elected officials defended our rights and our democracy. With term limits, we are losing some of our strongest champions, and I want to build upon their legacies. I spent some time the other day looking at the pre-filed bills for 2024, and y'all, they're really up to no good down there. Further restricting access to abortion, sex education curriculums, and changing the way we engage with the initiative petition process for constitutional amendments. Yeah, democracy is being threatened. My unique skill set of advocacy, activism, policy analysis, community care, and connection are what makes me highly qualified and ready to take on one of the most important roles of my lifetime, to be your representative on some of the most important issues, the issues that matter to all of us. The cornerstone of this campaign is to try and make it less hard to live here. I want to see happy, joy-filled neighbors who are able to live their lives taking care of their families without fear that their government is going to impose bans and barriers. This is our campaign. Thinking about getting involved? We all have a role to play in our effort to save our state from religious extremists and preserve our democracy. Please let me know if you feel inspired. There are many ways to get involved. I'm not going to pull out the roles in the social change ecosystem for any of my students. You may be expecting that next. The screen drops down. One of the ways is to financially invest in our campaign. Please consider, if you are able, a donation to support the team and help get the word out. The primary is August 5th. We have an exciting 8 months ahead of us, and I'm so delighted to have your support. I really do hope that we are able to build relationships with District 80 voters to establish trust that turns them out in big numbers to vote for me, Elizabeth Fuchs or Lilly, for the next Missouri State Representative for House District 80. Thank you.